Step right up, my marvelous misfits. You asked me to investigate Bluegate and Manticore, so I dove in. I went through every bunker, every tunnel, every broken Deforester, and the clues all point towards something big. Not a rumor, not a ghost story, but the remnants of a real human faction tied directly to the Exodus. Manticore ran security for the evacuation. They ran Bluegate and they guarded Stella Montes, so whatever happened under that mountain was part of the Exodus machine. Whether anyone is still down there, only time will tell, but the evidence they left behind is enough to peel this mountain open and see what they were hiding. Bluegate is the first map that we received that's not in the lower Rust Belt. It features large open areas high up in the mountains with a few small towns, tunnels, and underground complexes. This map is one of the most recent additions to the tube network, and it only recently was expanded to reach Bluegate. This required the construction of all new raider structures to facilitate raider presence, and we can see this in the new air shafts that we use to evac off this map. As you start looking around the map, you're going to notice that there are multiple different eras of facilities. We see these little old Italian towns, and then we also see in and amongst those facilities that were built to withstand the tests of time and erosion. All of the facilities on the map that are underground and built to withstand time are emblazoned with the Manticore logo. Now, with the name of the map being Bluegate, are any of us that surprised that the focal point on this map is a large blue gate? But it is important, and we do need to look closer at it. From the outside, we can see that it is stuck partially open, with traffic trying to flow in and out of it. But if we look at the signs that are on the right side as traffic is entering the tunnel, it gives us a little bit more information. This sign translates roughly to highway police, stop, there's a checkpoint ahead in 800 meters, electronic speed controlled via speed cameras. It has hours of operations for the tunnel, and then an exception for residents. And then it has location names for, and I'm going to butcher these, but Teduccio, Soma, Mazzini, Torino, and Aremo. And these correspond to real Naples regions and districts around Mount Vesuvius, even though after doing some research from some comments on the last video, it seems like an almost one-to-one match for the Arc Raiders map to Mount Tide, or Tide, which is a Spanish island in the Canary Islands. So there's a little bit of weird stuff going on with the map, but we'll get into that in a different video. Overall, this does tie the Bluegate map to the Naples area, giving real-world grounding, and reinforces that the highway system mirrors real evacuation pathways that might be used in a situation like this. Now, if we look closer at the highway specifically on Bluegate, one end of it leads down the mountain range and up over what seems to be a mountain pass that goes towards Dam. And on Dam, the highway leads kind of through Dam towards where the practice range is. And in the practice range, you can see signs that lead to Spaceport. So basically, this looks like it is a highway that goes from Spaceport to Bluegate, and then potentially from Bluegate to Stella Montes. And I've got reasoning for that. If we look at Stella Montes on the map, it is directly in the same direction that the entrance of the tunnel into the mountain system is. And then if we go to Stella Montes, Manticore has a presence in Stella Montes. Manticore runs the security force for that location. Now, this gets more interesting as we look deeper inside of Bluegate as we get closer to the rear gate deep inside the facility. As we get closer, you will see more and more security force vehicles strewn about. And as you get close to the back entrance, you're going to see concrete barricades and what seems to be a defensive perimeter around the rear gate that seem to be utilizing androids as an assistance in the protection force. And this brings me to the question of what was behind those gates and what were they protecting? What we know so far is that Manticore was a private militia security force hired by wealthy elites and scientists to protect those who had access to evacuation slots. They were directly involved in the Exodus infrastructure and were connected to Stella Montes' operations. Their presence at Bluegate indicates corporate control, not public access, and this sets up the possibility of non-Speranza human factions still existing, and I'll show you why. With the destruction of the Deforesters at Bluegate and the hints from Shawnee about a non-Speranza human faction,
We get new arrivals every now and then, but they're usually parched and underfed. None of them could have brought down that Deforester.
this lines up some very interesting lore that might be coming soon. Now, I feel like a lot of people who've tried to do any lore videos on Bluegate and talk about Manticore have missed a very important perspective here. They chose to name themselves Manticore, and the Manticore is a creature from early ancient Persian mythology that was later picked up by Greek and Roman writers. The origin of the name Manticore or Manticora comes from the old Persian phrase man-eater. It has the head of a human, often with rows of sharp teeth around the jaw. It has a body of a lion, symbolizing strength and predatory power. It has a tail of either a scorpion tail or clustered venom spikes that shoot like darts. This creature is described as fast, powerful, and nearly impossible to escape from. The Manticore was feared as a perfect predator that devoured its victims completely, leaving no trace. It could mimic human speech to lure people closer before attacking, and ancient writers described it as cunning, deceptive, and unstoppable once it chose a target. The Manticore appears in writings of Pliny the Elder, a Roman natural philosopher whose works were studied for centuries in Italy. Medieval Italian scholars and artists revived the Manticore myth using its symbols of hidden danger behind a friendly face. Because of this, the Manticore became part of the European bestiary tradition, especially in regions around the Mediterranean. Now here's the symbolic meaning. A creature with a human face and a monstrous body was seen as a warning about trusting appearances. The ability to leave no trace of its victim turned the Manticore into a symbol of complete consumption and quiet destruction. Its venomous spines represent secret danger or weapons hidden behind charm. All right. I know you hate when I interrupt a video, but I do need to pop in here real quick and just say a huge thanks. The last 2 weeks, we have nearly made it onto the top 100 hype leaderboard on YouTube, which is absolutely insane. You guys are absolute legends, you absolute goats. I appreciate you all so very much. As always, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to like, sub, hit the hype button, comment down below, do the things that keeps the algorithm happy. It means a lot to me and it helps keep my channel running. So without further ado, let's get back to the video. Thanks. Now, as I mentioned, Shawnee sends us on a mission to investigate the downed Deforester carcasses that are scattered around the Bluegate map. During this mission, she talks about the fact that somebody had to have massive cooperation and weaponry to be able to take these things down, and she does not believe that it was Speranza that did this. This alludes to the fact that there is human activity in the area, that it was recent, that they have high-powered weaponry, and that we don't know who they are, and they don't want to be known. Now, around the map, we're going to find 3 separate facilities that are all run by Manticore. There is the main bunker, which has the reception area, the confiscation room, security stations, maintenance tunnels, and suggests controlled entry into a deeper sector. Then we've got the second bunker, which is an informative data vault just a little bit farther up the hill from it, with rows of electronics and screens, which was likely a relay command point or potentially a data preservation hub. It also potentially could be an air intake, as there is some fan systems in this facility as well. The third bunker is one of the most interesting though. In the third bunker, we find a rainwater filtration and distribution system that seems to lead below ground, and then this brings us to one of my most interesting points. In this bunker, as well as around the map, there are multiple of these black tile walls, which in some cases we have broken out to create zip lines going down. In this bunker, and also in the lower bunker below, we find some of these tile walls, and you can almost see through them, alluding to the idea that potentially there's something deeper. I do also think it's important to mention that right up the staircase, right above these filtration systems, right above this potential entry point, there is this little SOS station. So based on this information from Shawnee, we know that the Deforesters came to the area to remove the trees. We know that someone destroyed the Deforesters, and we don't know who they are or where they went. From the information that we've gathered around this map and from information we've gathered in other videos, I have 2 different directions that I would like to experiment with speculation about what I think might have happened and what I think might be held hidden below Bluegate. So let's talk about option number 1, which is the tile walls and a sealed transit shaft. These tile sections we use above ground. There's a few spots on Bluegate where there's the tiles knocked out of the wall, and we use that to zip line up and down. If I recall correctly, I think there's some of these on Stella Montes as well, actually. When we're below ground, there are multiple locations, specifically in the water filtration room and right near the main control room in the reinforced reception in Bluegate. These are 2 main points that would need to be checked on more regularly if you are underground for extended periods of time. So my thought for option number 1 is potentially those walls are a partially sealed system that allows the Manticore Corporation, whatever is left of it that stayed on Earth hidden below Bluegate, to surface temporarily to deal with the Deforesters. And this comes in, you guys pointed out a really cool video from a creator named Morphologist, and he goes into really good detail talking about erosion patterns in relation to the removal of tree roots. And I'll pin his video right here. You guys should definitely go check it out. He has a very interesting take on what he thinks is going on Bluegate. I would highly recommend his video. Definitely go give him some love. But one of the points that he makes in that video is that maybe the Deforesters are there to remove root structures, to remove structural support in the area, so when erosion happens due to seismic activity, it is much more severe. Which makes a lot of sense, because if we look around the map, there's a bunch of areas that have been split and ripped open by recent seismic activity. So potentially, and this was the point the morphologist was getting at, is that maybe Manticore came above ground to deal with Deforesters because they were concerned that it might break the stability of whatever facility they have located under the mountains of Bluegate. Now, if this is true, it means that the Manticore Corporation, or whatever portion of the Manticore militia that has been hidden out underneath Bluegate all these years, has remained partially or fully intact since the fall of humanity and since the Exodus period. This means that whatever technology that they have, they've been able to build on in secrecy all these years, keep adapting, keep altering it, and would be potentially years, if not decades ahead of whatever the survivors have for technology on the surface. This means that they possibly would have the ability to easily take on large arcs such as the Deforester when they came to the surface. But that same thinking and that same logic is what brings me into my second approach and my second theory, which touches on something I brought up in other videos. If this tunnel system does in fact lead from Bluegate all the way to Stella Montes, as I personally think that it might, this brings up another very interesting point. Manticore has a presence on Stella Montes. They are the ones that run the security for that site. This means that potentially, if there were any sort of weaponry there, such as the Aphelion, and or the potentiality that the large gun on top of Stella Montes might still be part of lore in the future, brings up a really interesting idea, and I would like to share it with you, even if it's a little bit heavy on the tinfoil hat. So here's my thought. If we look at the map, Stella Montes lines up with Bluegate correctly, where in theory there might be line of sight to be able to use and utilize the giant gun on top of Stella Montes. And I was doing some more research, just kind of looking around, trying to see if there's any way that maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is just a big telescope. And I couldn't find any telescope of any kind that looks anything like this, but it did start to look more like some sort of large kinetic magnetized weapon, something like a railgun potentially, when I was looking at more reference photos. So here's my thought. What if Manticore still has access to the Stella Montes gun? What if it's still active and we just don't know that yet? And what if Manticore was the one that developed it? What if Manticore was the company that developed the Aphelion? What if they have such advanced weaponry that instead of surfacing at Bluegate to deal with a threat on Bluegate, they surfaced at Stella Montes, activated a giant laser weapon or, railgun, whatever that thing actually is, and absolutely obliterated the Deforesters. And I was looking around and I found some evidence that potentially could support the use of heavy kinetic weaponry. If you look at some of these Deforesters, you can actually see massive chunks that have just been blown out of the rings. None of the weaponry that we have in the game does anything like this. We can knock armor plates off, but we can't punch holes in armor plates. So something with a massive amount of firepower shot these things really, really hard. And my brain goes to railgun, and we have a potential massive railgun on top of Stella Montes and a tunnel that leads from Bluegate to Stella Montes that has been locked down and is potentially still under protection from Manticore. So maybe Manticore used the Stella Montes railgun to take out the Deforesters. So that's everything we can piece together about Bluegate. Between the sealed tunnels, the Manticore bunker, the long-term survival systems, and the wrecked Deforester, it's clear this mountain was part of the Exodus machine and has been active since. Whether Manticore surfaced through the hidden shafts or fired something massive from Stella Montes, the evidence shows that they left a real mark here. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, let me know which theory you think fits the clues the best, or if you have a theory of your own. Also, tell me if you want to follow up on the bunkers of Stella Montes itself. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe in the Rust Belt, Raiders.